Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of Agile PMP practice questions, ideal for preparing for your PMP exam or your Agile Certified Practitioner exam, and a really great way to start your day. Let's get into the questions. You are working on an Agile project, gathering requirements from the business stakeholders with the product owner. That's exactly what we want to be doing. The product owner should have the features that we want to be delivering. They should set the scene for what we want to be delivering as well. During the discussion, different people seem to have different understandings of what the feature will look like. What will you do next? And this is a great example of a scenario-based question, really important. You'll see a lot of these on the PMP exam, and these are can be quite tricky, more real-life scenarios. This is exactly what we're looking for, so this is great. So what will we do? We'll ask the stakeholders to elaborate their ideas better, maybe, and set another meeting in a week's time. Definitely not that. So, even though we don't want to rush things, but we don't want to take too much time, and really, the idea of Agile is having all of the people close together so that we're talking on a regular basis, like really regularly, so that we can literally look over our shoulder and say, hey Bob, what do you mean by this feature? We're not waiting a week. That's not what we're here for. Okay, park the feature for now and begin work on a feature that is elaborated better. Certainly that is one option. That's something that you might do in the real world as well. You might wait. But again, we're more about communication here. So we really want to be communicating and figuring this out in the moment, if we can. Let's see what we've got. Draw a storyboard prototype of the requirement so all stakeholders can see it, adjust it on the fly and agree. Okay, this looks very promising because we're doing it in the moment. And also feature-driven development, which is one of the things that feeds into Agile, one of the methods that feeds into Agile. Feature-driven development starts with a high-level model, an idea, a model of the feature, and then you hone it down, and 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 it becomes more and more accurate as you're iterating over the different, iterating through those versions. So that sounds very promising. I like letter C at the moment. Give your understanding of the feature and ask the stakeholders to agree or disagree. And again, look, that's one way to do it. And all of these are things like facilitation techniques that you can use in the real world. But from an Agile perspective, I think what we're wanting to do is communicate, and also what we're wanting to do is iterate and improve, go through iterations if we can, starting with a high-level wireframe or a prototype. So let's go with answer C for now. Answer C. Gaining consensus regarding the content and flow of a piece of software by developing a wireframe or storyboard will confirm everyone has a complete understanding of what the output is. And we can see it as well. In a way, it's actually an increment, like it's a not very well developed increment that everyone can see, feel, and touch. And now we can really figure out if this is what we actually want. So that's a really good answer and a great question too. How did you go? Let's check out this next one. You're working as a project manager with an Agile project team. Okay, fantastic. The project sponsor sits on another floor and prefers to communicate by email only. Okay, definitely gonna have some problems here working in an Agile team because we want to be face-to-face ideally, and we want to be communicating often and talking on a regular basis. Interactions and individuals as the main focus of Agile. What will you do next? Ensure that you communicate by email only with the project sponsor so they are comfortable. Look, definitely that may happen in the real world. I think we're not going to go with that as the best answer from an Agile perspective. Stop communicating with the project sponsor until they at least come to a few project meetings. No, that would be avoiding the situation, and we prefer to be direct in our communication, but also collaborative in our communication as well. So ask the project sponsor to co-locate with the Agile team for a few days a week to ensure face-to-face communication and access to the visual project information. Oh, now this is really good, this one. So co-locating. Now, the project sponsor, we can say, hey, Anne, as a project sponsor, what did you want when we're delivering this feature? Is this actually what you wanted? And Anne can say, Well, no, that's actually not that's not what I had in mind at all. And you can adjust it on the fly. The communication is fast, and that's one of the powerful parts of Agile. Also, Anne can see by sitting with us as the project sponsor, the Kanban board in our visual area. She can see the burn down chart where we're creating, finishing cards and putting those towards features, and see how fast we're going. And the velocity of the team. So how many story points are we completing in a sprint? Even though she doesn't have to be involved in all of those things being absorbed as she's sitting in the area with us will really, really help. Last one, set meetings with the project sponsor so you can update them personally. Look, I still think we're going to go with answer C here. Let's check it out. Answer C. An Agile project team aims to work in a co-located space where ideas and information can flow freely. Face-to-face communication provides the best opportunity to ask questions, get immediate feedback, and understand body language as well in order to acknowledge agreement or clarify misunderstandings. Kanban boards and other visual tools are also in the team area, as we were saying. And the whole thing about face-to-face communication here, you've probably heard, and look, the percentages differ here, but I think only 7% is actually the words we speak of someone's understanding and communication. So the rest of it comes down to things like the verbal, like the way we say something, so the intonation. And the other things we might have are the body language. So body language, how is someone shifting their body? Are they saying, yes, yeah, sure, I will do that, absolutely. Then we see that there's definitely probably going to be a problem there, right? So you can't see that if you're not in the same room. And that is the power of co-locating your team as an Agile team. All right, let's get into the next question. As an Agile project manager, you understand the need to operate with openness and transparency with your team and with your stakeholders. This is a great principle in general. How will you encourage knowledge and sharing throughout the project? Okay, this seems good. Okay, tell your team what to do during work hours so they can learn from you. Okay. No, as an Agile project manager or a leader, we're not dictating, we're being a servant leader. So we're helping our team grow and we're removing blockers for them. So that is more dictating, not that one for us. Write a process document for the team to read through in their spare time. And we're looking at individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That's directly from the Agile Manifesto itself. So individuals and interactions we prefer. We're not really focusing on processes and tools, even though they are important. We prefer to focus on the individuals and the interactions and working together and communicating. So again, probably not that one. Let us see. Make key information visible in the team area and ensure all impacted stakeholders are invited to the daily stand-up, retrospectives, and even iteration planning. Oh, this is good. That's perfect for knowledge sharing. And this is it. We don't have to have extra meetings. We're already having the right meetings. And because we're transparent as an Agile team, we're not hiding everything away. We really want everyone to come along to these catch-ups. And they can get everything they need from these stand-ups, retrospectives, iteration planning meetings, backlog refinement meetings, all of those things. Let us see is looking really good for us here. Last one, form a key group of executive stakeholders to share project information with and ensure your good reputation within the company. I still would go with letter C here. Again, people will focus on their own personal brand when you work with them on a regular basis. But if you're truly moving towards an Agile team, you look at other people and serving the team as opposed to just serving yourself. And that's one of the benefits, and that's one of the things that makes it so powerful. So answer C is what we've got. An Agile team makes project information visible and accessible to all. Agile teams also prefer people and interactions over processes and tools, exactly as we were saying. It's part of the Agile Manifesto. That's a good thing to be aware of for your exam. How did you go? Let's get into the last two questions. You're doing great. Last two, you've been working in an Agile team for some time, and an executive from the business area asks how the team has been able to deliver so consistently over the past year. You tell him you're using extreme programming, or XP. what are some of the primary practices of XP that contributed to the team's success? And if we're talking about frameworks in Agile, and there are dozens of frameworks that contributed and that make up Agile and that you'll come across. There are scaling frameworks. There are frameworks that kicked off from the original, that fed into the original Agile approach. There are ones that are still in use today. You'll see these everywhere you go, and different people have different variations. But one thing you can count on is that if we're looking at frameworks, look at the core practices of Agile. Things like servant leadership, stand-ups, retrospectives, iteration planning meetings, all of those things, and how do they match up with what we're looking at here. If they match up, then it's a good chance that we're on the right track. So that's what we're going to do right now. So real customer involvement, team continuity, and a sustainable pace. That first one is a fantastic example of Agile. Sustainable pace is a real key part of Agile. We're not working people, high and then having them take time off and then working them really hard again. We're not throwing, hundreds of resources at things, and having people switch tasks constantly and multitask. No, we are having people focus on their core domain so that they really understand it and they're really good at it. And then we're having them work at a sustainable pace that can go on ideally forever. And that's the main thing. We're not overworking, we're not underworking. I really like letter A at the moment. And plus real customer involvement. That's our product owner, isn't it? Who represents the business. And team continuity, that's really important because when we've got team who sticks together, now we're starting to get the benefit of people working together and getting better at working together. And that only happens after you've been a team for some time. It doesn't happen initially. You've got your forming, storming, norming, forming, norming, storm, or whatever it is, forming, storming, norming, and performing. That's right. So when you first form as a team, you go through that storming stage because everyone's figuring out where they fit and exactly how to work. And that actually costs us, time and money to go through and work through that stage, and it happens every time. Anyway, enough of me blabbing on. I really like letter A at the moment. Ensuring executive reports, testing continually, raising defects. No, that's not a main factor of Agile given away by the executive reports. We want executives to come to our retrospectives, stand-ups, iteration planning if they want to, or to visit the team area to get the information that they need, like a Kanban, or the burn down charts and all of the features that we're delivering. Pivoting frequently, ensuring long meetings, and one final delivery. That's more waterfall. And lastly, finding the right product, finding the right people, and finding the right price. While that does roll off the tongue nicely, none of those are part of our Agile methodology in general. So we work with the people, so to deliver what the people want through the product owner. The product owner represents the customer, and finding the right people. Look, you may find the right people or not, but either way, the idea is that Agile gives us the framework to work with the right people, whether we find them or not. So I still think we're going to go with answer A. And there it is. The extreme programming primary practices include real customer involvement, team continuity, and working at a sustainable pace. Agile encourages all of these through its stand-ups, backlog grooming with the real customer or the product owner, and working to the team's velocity. Now that's great. So each iteration, we're going to say, look, the team has completed in the last 3 months or the last 3 iterations, on average, 45 points. Or 7 medium cards, for example, or however you're measuring your cards, it's up to you as a team. And so if we're planning the next iteration, we're going to say, let's try and keep it around that same number of points because we don't want to overburden the team. While some people might crack the whip, some executives might do that in your career. That actually has an adverse effect because it overworks the team and then they burn out and then they start leaving and then you have to rebuild the team again. So it actually has the opposite effect that the executive wants, and that's really important to know, not just for your exam, but just in general, as a manager, as a leader, as an Agile coach, for example, as a Scrum Master. Last question, guys. You've done absolutely great. Let's check it out. You're working with a seasoned Agile team who are very familiar with extreme programming in their way of work. They walk through a set of principles that they frequently use. What is not one of the primary practices of XP? And again, we can use the same approach as we did last time here. Planning with user stories. Yes, I think we do that. So iteration planning, we put our stories into the iteration from the product backlog. Test first programming. So test driven. Is it test-driven delivery? Yeah, or something similar to that, TDD. But that's where we're testing, and then and then the test will fail. Then we're coding what the change that we want, and then we're testing again, and the test will pass. So that's how we're doing test-driven delivery. Incremental design. Yes, we're wanting to design in increments, and then release, and then release, and then release, and then release. We're not just releasing in one big bang. Of course, that's waterfall. Last, first in, best dressed. That one, that's a saying, but it's not an agile or an extreme programming saying. So let's go with D as the incorrect answer. Here we are. Extreme programming works with 12 primary principles, including planning with user stories, test-first programming, incremental design, and more. All of these will align with the core principles of an agile way of work, but first in, best dressed is not one of them. And that comes to the end of our handful of questions to prepare you for your PMP exam and bring your agile knowledge up to speed. And I've really enjoyed spending the time with you, and I hope you've enjoyed spending the time with me too. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.